It started many years ago. On a dark, rainy night, this game launched, and with it, a new community grew, and that is the classic community. At the time, we did not know. Some of us still too young to even write or read. But now here we are, begging and needing for that very same thing that was unleashed in 2004. What is it? Classic. Why do we still want it today? Because it was fucking glorious. Anyways, let's get started with the video. So guys, before we start going into Classic and how we can change Classic, what's great about Classic and so on, I'd like to take the time to introduce myself first. I go by the name of Nayo on this channel, and I'll give you some of my background when it comes to WoW in general. So I started about when I was 4 or 5 years old, back in 2005, 2004. Played Classic, played every single expansions ever since, put a lot of time into WoW. Did a bunch of things, went from being a pretty bad player to a player who couldn't even read and write at the very start, to a player who was actually pretty decent. I did mythic raiding, I did high level raiding, I did pretty high level mythic keys back in Legion, BFA, and some in Shadowlands as well. Then some PvP as well. I did a lot of PvP, always enjoyed PvP. It's battle between games knowledge and, you know, reaction speed and so on. I don't know, it's something I've always enjoyed. So that's kind of my background when it comes to WoW in general. I'd say I've got a pretty large amount of hours spent in the game, and this is why I want to give you guys my opinion and talk about this subject, Classic Plus. What is Classic Plus? What do people want from Classic Plus? How does Classic Plus differ from normal Classic? What do we actually expect out of Classic Plus? Those are a lot of questions. And generally speaking, Classic Plus is open to interpretation, just in general. It's not something that is completely defined. People in general just want one thing, and that is more classic. What does that mean? So let's have a look at that. What's so unique about Classic compared to all the other expansions that you want Classic to stay Classic but with more content? So let's look at what we actually cannot fundamentally change about Classic. What has led Classic to become something else over time? The first one that comes to mind to me is how the world feels. It feels particularly large, you know? You make a new character, you make a gnome, for example. I'm saying gnome just for the memes, but you make a gnome in Dunmorrow. You do the zone, you know, you kill maybe an elite with some people you've never met, you wish them luck, and then you move on to your journey. You go to the next zone, then you move on, then you go to the next zone, and then you go to the next zone. It's so large. There is so many zones to go through. In one playthrough, you generally will not go to every single zone and complete every single quest. It's very unlikely you will. And that feeling of just it being an actual world is what makes it great. The biggest downside that retail has in that aspect as a MMO RPG is they make 4 new zones every expansion, and it just feels like this really restricted zones that you never go back to once you're level 70, unless if there's like a 30-minute quest line, and then you go back to the main city and you AFK down until your queue pops, be it solo shuffle or whatever it is, right? And when it comes to Classic, that's not the case. Yes, you can AFK in Stormwind, but let's say you gotta do a UBRS. You still gotta fly to the UBRS. You don't have any portals, you don't have any of that. You gotta fly, and you know, maybe you wanna do an axe. Well, better get those wall buffs if you wanna perform decently, right? I mean, at the end, you don't particularly need them once you fully get. But at the start, yes, you're going to need those buffs because they're going to help you a lot, and generally it's gonna help you perform. much better. It's that interaction with the community around the world where it just brings the world to life that retail just really lacks overall. And that's what people really want out of Classic. So, another thing I want to talk about is instances. What's the difference between instances in retail to Classic? So, instances in retail, there's like 8 new dungeons every expansion. There's a very minute quest line about why you're going there, and that's just it. In Classic, there are so many quests for a majority of the dungeons and a majority of raids that there's an entire story behind it you can get into. There's reasons to go in there. There's a big baddie to go in there. He's actually, you know, pretty cool most of the time. I mean, killing Edwin Van Cleef is like coolest shit ever as a human, for example. Was it Lions? Sorry. And just generally that feels really good. So, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to instances. Keeping a nice balance between instance content and non-instance content. So Classic does a really good job at this. You do raids and there's still shit to do outside of that. You know, you can get dungeons, you can go out in the open world, do a open world boss, you can do some questing that will reward you, that will give you some, you know, some armor, some actually decent armor. Now, yes, in terms of base, etc., you don't actually tend to use all of them, but you tend to use 1 or 2 pieces that are pretty interesting. There's some challenges you can do. There's a lot of cool shit you can do in Classic Plus, no, in Classic, sorry, compared to retail. And I think that keeping a good balance between the amount of content that is instanced and non-instanced is pretty important, because retail is about 90% instanced with maybe 5 to 10% non-instanced. And Classic is, majority of the gameplay is actually non-instance, believe it or not. Yes, at max level, you have that, but in terms of everything together, I'd say it has a good balance of like 70% world and 30% instance, which is insane. It's really good. It really makes the world come out to you, you know, it really makes you feel like, you know, you start to get to know the world, especially if you're a new player. So, having said all of this, what can change about Classic? Like, what can change about Classic and Classic Plus? So, buffs, nerfs to classes. I feel like this is just normal. It should just be done. Just make some of the classes that are shit right now decent, and make some of the classes that are overperforming maybe a bit weaker. I think that's just fair. It doesn't really change the gameplay all that much. It just makes the game better. So I think that's a good change. That's the first good change. The next change I would like to see would be some fixes to old bugs slash unintended mechanics. A good example of this is the Z-axis. So if you're on a staircase in a castle, for example, and you pull too many mobs and you would like to reset, if you run up the staircase or run down the staircase and those mobs are above or under you in a Z-axis, they can hit you through the walls and hurt you like never before. Now, this has been especially prevalent in hardcore Classic, because, you know, if you die, you actually die for reals. Another thing I would like to see if they bring Classic Plus to life is Classic Plus Hardcore. I mean, why not? If you're gonna make Classic Plus, just make a hardcore version out of it. It's not gonna be difficult. Implement the Makara like you did before. Maybe add something new, or maybe not. And I think that's just a good idea for Blizzard generally. It just makes the game better overall. I think people will play it regardless, and that system of your character being sent to a normal realm once you've died on a hardcore realm, I think is a good system. They should keep it, and they should just ship it. What else can we change about Classic Plus? New raids. Now listen up before I say new raids and new zones. Classic, as I mentioned before, has a very linear function in terms of how you progress. There isn't any, you know, like kind of curves, etc. Yes, if you're looking at XP and things like that, but I'm just talking in terms of how the progression goes. You're level 1, level to 10, 20, and so on until you reach 20, and until you reach 60. You do a bunch of dungeons, etc. You have fun. You kill some res, you kill some elites. It's very linear. It's always the same thing, but it's just fun, and this is why everyone enjoys it. And then you reach level 60. You do some class quests if you need to do them for your biz, and then you go and do some UBRS, LBRS, and then, you know, all the other dungeons that there are, Scholar Man, Straffle, Entry, and so on. Then you go do your ZG, you go do your Molten Core, you then go to WL, and so on, right, until you reach Nax. So AQ 20, AQ 40. This is a very linear progression, and every time you reach a milestone, so for example you reach CG, then you need to unlock attunement to go Molten Core, then you need to unlock attunement to go BWL, then you need to unlock attunement to go and do AQ, and then you need to unlock and so on. But the same for Nax, right? This is a great system. I love this about Classic. It also means that if I stop BWL and I'm fully geared Molten Core BWL gear, right, with maybe some CG items depending on your class, I can come back in 5 months and continue from where I was, and I can just move up the ladder, you know, and kind of experience this story. And I mean, you won't be alone because everyone has to do it. There's no skip to this, and it shouldn't be any skip. You should just keep going in this linear kind of graph. And I think if they make a new raid or multiple new raids, that should be true as well for those new raids. They should be like, you know, you need to do Nax to go to this new raid in Ngoro, for example, or wherever it's going to be, and that should just be it. And yeah, and if they make raids above that, then it should just keep going that way, you know? Or they should be linked together, and the gear shouldn't be different in terms of, you know, you shouldn't be able to do that new raid and skip Molten Core, BWL, CG, AQ 2040, Nax, right? Like, there's no point. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about. If they make new places in the world, so Classic Plus could actually implement things like the Emerald Dream. That was an idea back that the devs wanted to actually implement in Classic, but they didn't have enough time to make it back in 2004. Same with zones like Ajara, they wanted to flesh those out a bit more before release. There was also other classes that were planned, Demon Hunters and so on. I don't know how I feel about new classes. I feel like it would be really difficult to make them for a Classic environment. If they do it well, it's great. If they don't, it kind of fucks it up. So I'm pretty unopen about that. But yeah, so new zones, we want to see them being linked to the rest of the world. That's very important. I think that's particularly important. If you get a quest to go in this new zone, let's take Igel. Igel is a perfect example. Igel is in Kalimdor. If you go to Igel, you should be sent to go to Tanaris to get something the goblins have, or you should be sent to Felwood because you need this Fel corrupted bullshit to do something. I think that just like fleshes out the world and it just makes it better. Outside of that, what else can we talk about? Graphics and new systems in Classic Plus. What do we feel about that? So, here's my take on graphics. Can they upgrade the graphics, and how much would I care? I actually wouldn't mind that much if they upgraded the graphics. That being said, I don't want the retail graphics. I want something a bit rougher around the edges, if that makes sense. I want the Warcraft 3 kind of feel to be in it. You know, I want to look at an orc I make and be like, shit, this guy in front of you, like, he rocks, man. I just want a garage feel, you know, like as if I make an orc, for example. But it's not a system I would mind if they changed. That said, I'm completely fine with them keeping it the way it is. It's unimportant to me. It doesn't have to do anything with gameplay. It should just be an option. Something. New systems. Okay. New systems. What could they do at the game without fucking it up? There's not a lot of systems. Some of the systems I could see happen is transmog, maybe. Doesn't affect the game that much. I wouldn't really mind. I don't think a lot of people would. Player housing, but is that really gonna happen? I mean, doubt it, but maybe, who knows? I mean, we'll know in 3 days, right? And so yes, this is where kind of where I feel like I am when it comes to uh changes in classic. Outside of that, why is classic plus a good thing? Like, why do people want classic plus? I mean, just 1 day ago, the OTK tournament happened with the Makaros. I thought that was I watched the whole thing. I was blown away by the community. And this is why I'm actually making the video, because I saw that and it just riled me up. I wanted to play classic. I wanted to do things, and I just wanted to talk to the rest of the community, get a feel for it, you know. And generally, I feel like the community, this is a massive community for Classic and for Classic Plus realms. And I would be really happy for them to do something with it. That would just be great. Another thing they could add potentially is new races, high elves and stuff like that. Then again, like, it's just cool stuff that they can add that wouldn't actually affect the game that much, so long as it makes sense and, you know, it's not Shadowlands lore. I'm fine with it. So to conclude, I think Classic Plus is the future when it comes to any classic projects. I don't think going kata is the way, but I mean, if they make kata on the side, I wouldn't really care. I don't think too many people would play it, but, you know, if those people want to play kata, then let them play kata. Like, it's fine. Outside of that, thank you very much for watching the video, guys. If you liked it, please leave a like and a comment, subscribe. And yeah, it was nice talking to you guys. Have a nice one. I hope to release more videos in the future. And peace.